Warning.
Watch very closely now. 3, 2, 1. Bzow! Check that out.
The following podcast features terrible jokes.
You know you can use Hot Wheels cars when you need to make a saving throw in D&D? Every car is die-cast.
Usually about board games.
We want the fun. Gotta have that fun.
Must insist that no one attempt to recreate any joke performed on this podcast.
We had less technical issues than $1 million company.
All right!
This is Boards and Swords.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Boards and Swords. This is a podcast featuring bad jokes, good folks, and apparently somebody doing the lawn right outside my window, and some tabletop games. With me here, as always, is my partner in crime, Mr. Philip Herbig. How are you doing?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this lovely Monday. It's June already.
Yep. I didn't even say, for those the first time tuning in, who am I? I'm Chris Renshaw. I'm one of your co-hosts here. And joining us this week, we have Mark Henry from the website Goblin's Hut. Or if you type it into Google, it always looks like Goblin Shut.
How's it going, everybody? It also looks like something else, but we're not going to talk about that.
Goblin Shot? What?
Hmm.
So for those that haven't been to Nova to see your stuff, why don't you tell people about Goblin's Hut and Dirty Down?
Absolutely, yeah. Goblin's Hut is a North American distributor. We started in 2021, technically, and specializing in hard-to-find products from all over the world, but we're most well-known for Dirty Down. Before just a few years ago, it was relatively unknown in the North American wargaming, RPG, cosplay communities, and I found it as a hobbyist and brought it over here as fast as I humanly could. And it takes something that was relatively relegated to scale modelers or model train guys, weathering using different chemicals and everything like that, and makes it very accessible to your average painter while still taking it to award-winning, screen-worthy Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Pirates of the Caribbean levels. So it was used in the movie industry first, and now we get to use it for the same thing, creating these effects really easily and really quickly.
Did not know that. That's actually really cool. But we're gonna learn. We're gonna find out more about Goblin's Hut and Dirty Down. But first, we have some news. News. What do you do when you have a crush on a vegetarian? You take them out on dates. So, Monster Romance board game is coming soon from Paizo. Lets you date a sentient ooze. So they be doing the monster match instead of the monster mash. Paizo, a publisher known for its Pathfinder tabletop RPG, revealed a quirky new board game at this year's PaizoCon. A Twitch stream announced Monster Match, a dating sim-style tabletop game where you can get intimate with classic adversaries from fantasy RPGs. Pathfinder has a lot of action and adventure, but we're going to add a bit of romance later this year. That later this year is about all we've shared about a release so far. They did reveal a few extra details about the upcoming board game. It's a quick game for 2 to 6 players where you'll take monsters on dates, give them gifts, and build connections with them. The romantic theme makes us think this would be an ideal couples board game, but the player count and concept also sound like a solid party game. So the monsters that are single and ready to mingle might include a genie, a vampire, and a literal sentient ooze. And there are a variety of gifts that you can give them, including a bag of rotten fruit. And it's also possible for multiple players to pursue the same beastly bow. So all I could think about is just like, whenever I'm on, I for whatever reason, my Facebook feed has become, or Facebook stories feed, Reels feed has become like making fun of the romantasy genre, and just hearing people talk about that, and I'm just like, sounds like a match made for them.
Oh, yeah. Man. The only thing I could think of, I just put it in the chat. It's a game called Date Everything
Yeah.
on Steam. I saw a streamer. They were running through a demo, and everything turns into this like human version of it's like the front door to your house
Nice.
turns into a dude.
So it
And,
anthropomorphizes everything.
But they did it really well because like his tie looks like a door knocker.
Oh, that's
And,
cool.
The like on the suit jacket, the part that like folds over a little bit, looks like door trim and everything. Like they did it really good with the artwork and everything. But yeah, you date everything in your house.
Sounds like a peach
Don't
of
ask
a game.
me. Don't ask me why this is on my For You page, but on TikTok, every now and then I come across it's a guy who's making a 5e supplement book, but it's for the anatomy of all of those different fantasy races. And he goes into way too much detail. It is something that will intrigue you just once before you skip past that.
And that's why it's always on your feed.
Some people.
You stopped one time, and then
Yep,
they were like,
yeah,
gotcha.
that's how it goes. It's like the Instagram ad you accidentally clicked on. Yep.
Yeah.
Some people really get into their world building, man. They gotta know everything.
I don't know. I could definitely see Corey and Jimmy from our old Dirtbags podcast I could see them playing this game.
Oh yeah. We should just get it and then just leave it at Chris's house.
or get it and stream it.
Great. Yes.
Even better. All right. Next up, some companies are banding together to try and take on GW. So I took this as I saw this, and this was just kind of a duh story for me. But the new Gundam War Games miniatures are light years ahead of Warhammer 40K. Easy to build beginner minis. Unlike Games Workshop's easy to build beginner minis, the minis for Gundam Assemble are genuinely easy to build. So we had UK Games Expo was recent, and in fact, there's another story about that later on. But I'm pretty sure Bandai did a presence there, and they showed off some of the new upcoming Gundam Assemble minis, which, just a reminder, this isn't coming out until like next year. And there's still like not a whole lot of information on how the game plays, because I don't even think they fully understand. They're just like, we just want a minis game that has Gundams, and we already have the kits, and we're just going to hit the scale and go 25%. So Warhammer 40K has long been at the forefront of model kit designing for the miniature game market, with kits that combine a fun build. I don't know about that. Loads of options and a final product that both looks great and plays well on the tabletop. I would agree with about 80% of those statements. I would not say they are fun building experiences. Let me put together this cape that is 4 pieces together.
The Gundams or the
no
Warhammer?
the Warhammer.
Okay.
But then again,
well, you already know my issue with Warhammer builds. It's like, oh hey, there's all this like sweet modeling and detail they put on. We're gonna cover it with this other thing, and you don't get to see it ever again.
Yep. That's like, but then again, you go look at somebody else's models, and then you're like, oh, I've been spoiled.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna hold off going there, but my search for all before 3D printing got real heavy.
Yeah, I won't name names, but there are definitely been a couple of games that like I have bought and or played, and to be like, I do not like these minis. Back on the shelf or out to somebody else.
All right. I think I finally understand why they charge so much. Even though...
No, there's still a. So, fun fact about Games Workshop minis: if you ever are curious and you really want to know like how much we're getting overcharged and stuff, especially if you live in America, like where I'm pretty sure they have a factory over here, so it's not like a lot of stuff's getting imported. If you go on Games Workshop's website and set your location to the UK, and then look at prices, and then do a conversion to like dollars, they're always like $20 less than what they actually charge on like the US store.
That's fair.
So like
That's
people
fair.
gripe about like buying all these codexes, but over in the UK they're like $35. And I'm like, I don't have so much of a problem with it at $35. I do at 60 to 70, but
Mm-hmm.
so getting way off tangent here. But the game's dominance is about to be shaken up by Bandai's upcoming Gundam Assemble wargame. It's an open secret among model kit collectors that Gundam models are in many ways more advanced than 40K kits. Yeah. They have joints on the sprue. Like, you don't have to assemble the joints. The joints come together, you clip the front end, the back end, and then it moves. Like,
Which is wild.
I know. They go together without glue. Some probably should have some glue. But fully articulable joints and have more detail on individual components thanks to using 3 parts rather than 2-part molds. That's not to call them strictly better. People want to play games with their factions, and 40K minis are engineered with that in mind. Gunpla are more like delicate action figures or military scale models. But what happens when Bandai takes its mastery of engineering and then makes a model that's designed for tabletop gameplay? So that's when you get the Gundam Assemble, and the results are impressive. So they had a chance to build 1 assemble miniature each during the UK Games Expo. Each mini comes on a single sprue, plus a sprue for a base and a mini flight stand. There were no instructions at the booth, but these are vastly simpler kits than regular Gunpla, so that wasn't a problem. So here's like they got a picture of it where it's just like push fit, and it's like, is that pre-colored, or I'm trying to figure out if they painted that.
Looks a little dry brushed.
Yeah, because, okay, this picture up here shows it mostly gray, so.
Yeah.
So they push fit together and then lock in place.
Should have used that first plastic picture for the banner at the top. When I first saw that banner, it was underselling how the quality of these kits.
Oh, yeah, very true. Yeah, these models are actually easy to build instead of the easy to build parts having stiff joints, awkward angles of connection, or involving pushing together delicate. Yeah, some of the things with the push fits for GW is like, once you push fit them together, hopefully you did it right, because they ain't coming apart. I've broken so many of those pegs just trying to because I like to test fit things to make sure like I've got them right. And then you test fit it and it's not coming apart.
Yeah, GW's got that do or do not mentality.
Yeah. If you can find them, Bandai made a line of Gundam called Artifact that are miniature Gundam models, and they get dumped on for GW prices. Yeah, true. Australia does get off a lot worse. Yeah. And like, for instance, Aaron put in the chat that like the new Kill Team box is looking at like $170 US. In the UK, it's like £100, which is like $135 if you do a direct swap, and it's just like.
Don't even ask Australia.
Yeah. The components are also suitably chunky. The same can be said of regular Gunpla, so should be more durable little models that stand up well to tabletop play. The poses are fixed but characterful. That's good, because having done some of the really detailed ones, it's like there's only like, I like having some posability is nice, but also there gets to be a point where it's too much. So, but like, yeah, this Zaku one looks really cool. Oh, at the booth we had a chance to put on some basic paint on the minis. That's why one of them looked like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so here's a couple side by side. And hey, if you want to like do rust effects on your Gunpla minis.
I just see a lot of conversion bits for Tau right there.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
See, Chris, what you do is you grab a set of these, and then just sneak them into your Warhammer game. See if anybody notices.
That's what he's talking about. You just like, start using the Zaku models in your Tau army. Or actually, no, you use like the actual Gundam models.
Not too long ago, I saw at Nova a guy playing with a bunch of fish tank sharks. So I think he'll get away with it just fine.
Yeah. No. In the Heresy game, People were
Oh, no.
using the big heresy game where nobody cares. There's no meta here. There was people using like Godzilla figures and dinosaurs for their demons, like their
Yeah.
Titanic demons. So both this and the card game look interesting. Yeah, I'm not as interested in the minis, mainly because I feel like it's gonna take forever for them to get to like all the I feel like I can get to like the cool minis that or the cool Gundams I want to see faster in the card game than the minis. I feel like it's gonna be a little slow rollout, even with the like a year ahead advance kind of thing that they've got. So it's like I can't play it all, you know? So I'm probably gonna try out the CCG, and even then, like, it's probably gonna be I'm gonna go to the event, maybe not buy a box, but like I'm gonna go do like a starter pack and like maybe do like a limited draft or something. Maybe I'll buy like some spare cards on the on TCG Gamer or TCG Player.
Well, Zaku's tend to be the poster boy, like recognizable, other than Gundam.
Yeah.
But they're everywhere, especially minis. I'm very curious what the other kits are going to look like.
Yeah, they've announced there's a couple of them. There's a couple of them that are coming out in the first wave, because the packs the first wave of starter decks for this TCG has a premium one that's coming with a mini as well to kind of get you already interested.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it's like a Zaku, the regular Gundam, Wing Gundam, and I want to say Strike, but I could be wrong, from Gundam Seed, but that one I could be wrong on. But those are going to go stupid expensive. I think they're supposed to retail for like $35. I think our local store couldn't get any, like zero.
Oh no.
So like that means these things are going to get bought up and probably sold for like $100. Especially since like if you don't get these, you got to wait like a year for the actual minis game to come out. So yeah, a lot of nostalgia for Gundam Wing stuff. Yeah, so do most of us on this show.
My niche for mechs is somewhere in between Armored Core and Gundam. Like
Yes!
Titanfall style mechs
Yes!
are like blow my mind.
Yeah,
I really want to see more of those.
I got into Gundam Wing around the same time that I got into Armored Core 2, so you can't really pick it out, but there are 3 different like Wing and Wing Zero models that I just finished building this week on there.
Joy Toy puts out a line of like really interesting mechs that aren't with any IP, that it's just their 1/18th scale mechs, and they have a style that's very, very close to being threading the needle between those two styles, like the sort of clunky big stompers and the sleek Japanese mechs.
That's interesting because Joy Toy also makes Warhammer action figures.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, I tried to write a note on some fancy new paper that I got, but it was really hard to do while staying still. But that's what I get for buying stationery. So I like to throw in a fun Kickstarter that I find, and this one was kind of unique. Spell Circle's D&D Stationary collection for DMs and players. So this is it's by Art Nouveau Design, or excuse me, the Luxury of Art Nouveau Design. Let's see, I was trying to find. I guess it's just Spell Circles is what it's called, but they make like they've got a campaign journal here, and some like NPC list, like looks like post-it notes, and some character notes over there. Expanding on our best-selling session notepads, the Spell Circles collection introduces 5 beautifully designed, play-tested new products, from character sheet bundles with enough for each player to the sleek initiative tracker notepad, designed to streamline combat and save on precious table real estate. With each stretch goal, also unlock premium items such as spell cards and the campaign journal. Each one has been play tested in real D&D sessions. I guess I should have brought up the actual Kickstarter page. So, oof, it's at $666 right now. 17 days to go. Yeah, Briar Bones is who makes these. There we go. So I'm trying to see here. Okay, here we go.
Based in Australia.
Yeah, I just noticed the irony on that one. Let's see. Oh, there's the initiative tracker. That looks really cool. Session notepad, 50 full color pages that give you kind of like note space for everything. You got character sheets. The character sheets look really cool, especially compared to like your standard D&D character sheet. Like that is so much cooler to have, and it's a little bit smaller in size. Here's the initiative tracker. Oh, that's cool. It actually has like a spot for HP and AC, which is something I do for like my games, is like writing the AC next to every character on the initiative tracker. But so that's kind of cool to see. And then the mini notepad, NPC sticky notes, and then a nice little cute zip pouch to add it all in. And let's see, did they say yeah? So the character sheets are $2. I don't know if that's for a pad of them.
Digital character sheets.
Oh, is that digital? Oh, digital character sheets. That's what. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Digital bundle. Oh, they're not showing. I wanted to see like the individual pictures or individual prices. That's weird. That's kind of bizarre the way they've got it in here. Because it's like, yeah, you back and then you can like get stuff. Let's see. But you can get a session notepad, matching mini notepad, and 5 character sheets for about $23. Let's see. For about $40, you can get the initiative trackers. That seems to be just about everything. Oh, the full collection is $53. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's not bad at all.
Like I said, I would definitely. I don't know how much I would use some of the other stuff because I use a whiteboard, but like I kind of like that the character sheet.
Yeah, I really hope to get back into in-person play at some point here soon. We had every week for like 8-9 years until COVID hit, and then we moved online and mastered online in those 3-4 years, and it's very hard to get back to in-person stuff.
Yeah,
but
it helps when you have like a really nice game table that you want to like get people around.
That's fair. That's my excuse to buy everything hobby related.
Yeah, exactly.
It will get people in my basement.
That's like I'm always like showing off stuff that I get into like review and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, you're just bragging." I'm like, "No, I want you to see this really cool thing."
It's a write-off. It's a write-off.
Like, look, did you even know this was the thing? I didn't know this was the thing. Oh, they're Horus Heresy Joy toys. Ooh, I didn't know that. All right. Speaking of UK Games Expo, if you go to a con for dry erase markers, is it called an expo? So I teased it on the in the show notes. It says UK Expo now bigger than Gen Con. So it's a little bit of a clickbaity. UK Games Expo now fully on the world stage of megacons as record-breaking event surpasses Gen Con for trade hall size, director says. So like, I've been hearing more and more each,
Debated.
Debated?
No, debated. You got baited.
Oh,
with the UK Game Expo being bigger than Gen Con.
No, yeah, I set that up. So if you look at the unique attendance, it's still not enough as Gen Con, where it's 42,000 unique people as opposed to the 71,000 by Gen Con. But that's kind of impressive to see now that like anyone who's been to Gen Con and you know how big that trade hall is, and to note that theirs is bigger. And now Gen Con is now the 3rd biggest space-wise convention. So you got Essenspiel, then you got UK Games Expo now, and then now you have Gen Con. So that's actually I haven't heard a whole lot of people say it, but to me, I feel like that's pretty groundbreaking, especially considering like there's a lot of a lot of people pulling out of Gen Con this year for various reasons. And so just giving people, having other options that are still just as popular and just as huge and growing. Whereas I feel like Gen Con keeps getting more and more confined in its space. Like, they only have so much space in that main ballroom that they use, and there's only so much hotel rooms, and there's only so much of the other stuff where you just keep hitting limits. And so maybe this might force them to do something. Not saying they necessarily need to move, but they just need to, get some stuff going on there at least. Like, I didn't
just
go.
make space for me, please. That would be wonderful.
Exactly.
just for me.
Yeah.
But what are the trade hall hours? That's my question.
Oh, didn't you know it already closed?
Oh man.
Yeah. Let's see. Total gate attendance was past 72,000 people. 780 exhibitors took place in this year's show, while the trade hall space was about 30% larger than in 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually now, I think, the second
jump.
largest trade hall after Eschenspiel. About 2,000 square meters more than Gen Con. So yeah, this is only considering the trade hall. We're not talking event space, because that's where you start going into like all the hotels and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and the side rooms and
Yeah.
Doesn't True Dungeon take up something that could be converted into trade hall space?
True Dungeon now is in the stadium.
It's in the stadium. It completely moved. That's right.
Yeah. There aren't as many conventions in the UK for games. Vendors can concentrate on the one show. Yep. Like this year, where like PAX Unplugged and Board Game Geek are on the same Board Game Geek Con are on the same weekend, and everybody's losing their fit.
Oh.
Yeah, and this show has only been started since 2007. That's crazy. So in under 20 years, they're already like creeping up on Gen Con. That's getting close to its 60th year.
Yeah. $2,000 square meters more. Now, how much of that space was like filled?
I mean, I would imagine since they went from 685 to 780, so almost 100 more exhibitors, that I would imagine that a lot more of it is being used up.
10 square feet for each of them.
Because looking at just remembering Unplugged last year.
Yeah.
Some of them walkways were wide, man.
Yeah, but I like it that way.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying.
I much prefer having like being able to walk and not have to like do the shuffle like the cart.
How sardined was this trade hall? That's what I want.
Yeah.
Seems like every convention's growing in leaps and bounds. Even Adepticon this year was like, we already need more legroom.
Which one was that?
Adepticon.
Oh, really? And that was with the new space.
Well, the exhibit hall was huge this year compared to last, and they're already gonna increase it, I think, in size.
Oh,
it was wonderful.
God, Chris, there's a game I'm never gonna play.
What?
Scroll down to the next picture.
Oh, the flicking.
Flick Fleet.
Yeah. I was just looking
flicking a D10.
I was looking at this picture because like it's hard to tell, but I'm kind of getting Gen Con space vibes out of this just from seeing some of the booths kind of bordering each other.
The ceiling and the booths and all that. So, yeah.
So definitely. Sales were up 40% from last year, said one of the retailers. Oh yeah, there you go, flicking the D20.
Yeah, no, never doing that. Never doing that.
It's paper football for war games.
Yep.
With a resin dot. Yeah, no.
All right. Last news post here. This CMON news post got my blood raging. So, Tabletop Tycoon acquires 5 board games from CMON. So, CMON has sold the board games Blood Rage, Rising Sun, Ankh, Gods of Egypt, in addition to Arcadia Quest and Starcadia Quest, to Tabletop Tycoon. Tabletop Tycoon does the like it's like Everdell. They also do, if you ever go to a convention and you see like the board game discount box, that's like usually like a stack of them. You pay $20 and it's basically a bunch of garbage games that haven't gotten sold anywhere else. They're the ones that do that. So they have bought the rights to some pretty heavy board games there. Like I heard this, like this got posted in our Discord, and I was like, CMON must be in some dire straits. Like,
well, they just downsized considerably.
Yeah.
With all the tariffs holding delivery on everything, they're like 7 Kickstarters deep at this point, right?
Yeah, and they said they're stopping production on any new games right now based on all the changes going on. But like now, granted, none of these games they have done anything with in probably 5-6 years. But still, like, it's kind of crazy because like all those games, they could have put on Kickstarter and they would have sold out, even with CMON being 7 deep. Just reprinting a lot of the like Kickstarter promos and stuff. I know there are people that will just buy them, gobble them up. So, also not a huge fan of Tabletop Tycoon, if you couldn't tell. I've heard a lot of bad, you want to talk about like people with bad Kickstarter records. I've heard not good things there. Also, Tabletop Tycoon, what used to be Game Salute, and they changed their name back when Game Salute started to become their name started to get tarnished a little bit by some of their Kickstarter records. So, not the greatest person to be picking up these beloved games, but oh well. I've still got my Blood Rage. At least I keep debating selling Arcadia Quest, but but yeah. Also, there are rumors that there's going to be like a sequel or a remastering of Blood Rage, and they even say on here, look forward to reissuing, remastering, extending these lines into the future, said Dan Yarrington, CEO and founder of Tabletop Tycoon. So,
at least they found a new life.
Yeah, I have enough Arcadia Quest. CMON is dead, too far in depth. Yeah. It's one of those things that like, I feel like they went too far, too high. It's like Icarus.
Well, we were talking about them earlier this year, and my search history still has, because I looked for like CMON Expo.
Yeah.
Because like we went there that one year.
Yeah.
And it was like CMON Expo Bangkok. I'm like, they're not even in the U.S. anymore.
Yeah, because they moved all their, because it's a Hong Kong traded company, I believe is what it is, and so they moved like their main expo out to like Bangkok and Singapore and out there. And then they had a U.S., I think it was like last year or the year before, they had like the first U.S. CMON Expo in years, and it was actually done
in Minnesota.
In Minnesota at the old Fantasy Flight game shop, the Fantasy Flight Game Center. I think it's now just Game Center or something like that.
Yeah, with a Z, yeah.
But yeah, so if you're a fan of those games, this might be good news for you, but it's probably bad news for CMON, I think.
I still have stuff from that expo I haven't opened. Like I got that pirate theme.
Oh yeah,
game.
the Rum and Bones.
Yeah, Rum and Bone, plus like the stuff to convert it to the second edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't opened that stuff.
Well, you never know. You could probably sell it still in shrink and probably get.
Can you start selling stuff? The Kickstarter, the gold exclusive God figures for Blood Rage.
Yeah.
I've still got those hiding somewhere.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Because that's all I wanted. I got the digital version of the game and the physical version of the gold minis.
Yeah. Several of the CMON annuals where they were just, back when the website was just Cool Mini or Not. And it was basically like Hot or Not, but for minis.
Discovered some good painters on that site way back when.
That was like modern day Instagram. So, All right, and them's the news. So with that, let's turn back to Mark. Why don't you tell us how you got started with everything?
Oh man, how far back do you want to go?
Hey, how did you get into playing minis games in general?
Okay, that gives me a good place to start. For a long time, um, I just played video games. N64 was my first like big one. I mean, obviously there's like Nintendo and Game Boy and stuff, but man, I stayed away from all the miniature games. I played RPGs for a long time. That was really like my first entry into true nerddom. But during that whole time, I sort of like in that corner of the game store were the war gamers, and I didn't really understand it. And I remember buying, or a friend showed me his first kit, and he opened it up, and I was like, wait, but like you're playing a game. You're playing a game with these, right? Yes, yeah, we play a game with these. Okay, like why are you getting scammed? Like somebody's gonna sell you a plastic toy that you have to build and assemble, but you can play the game with rocks. Like why are you gonna pay $50 for this? And I hung on to that bitterness for a long time until the competitive side sucked me in. I sold my Magic the Gathering cards. I bought my first Tau 40K army.
Wow.
Before knowing that they deserved a lot of the hate that they got. But you know, a lot of guys in that hobby will be like, oh yeah, I've been playing since like 3rd edition or something like that. I didn't get in until 6th. Into that side of things. Like I had always been an avid like RPGer, whether you're talking like Vampire the Masquerade or like the whole World of Darkness was where I started, or Pathfinder or 3.5 3rd edition D&D. Like that's where I put my time and focus. And it wasn't until a friend dragged me kicking and screaming to the last Baltimore Games Day for Warhammer to and I got to like stand out in the crowd, and before they open the doors you always get that like whoa from everybody. And
Yep. I've heard about it.
I was like yeah, I was like I can get into this. Like these guys are hyped up, this is fun. But I eventually bought that first kit, and like we were talking about before the show, like I was part of Primer Crew. Like I painted, but I like didn't really know what I was doing at the time. That wasn't the purpose for me. And at my local store, there was a highly competitive community, and it had a lot of magics. Like, well, you got to buy the new hotness in order to keep up with it.
Yeah.
But like, it's strange to say that like it was less expensive than keeping up with competitive Magic at the time. And because you know I wasn't feeling the pressure at that point of hobbying or feeling the pride of creating something of my own, I just went whole hog into the play to win. I was that guy. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Well, I am ashamed to admit it, but I have retroactive shame. But then 7.5 rolled over to 8th edition, and like that was the first time, because 6th was so similar to 7th, that I really had to like learn a whole new game set. And it was at a time in my life where I had a lot of stress, and I was like floundering, like, oh, I don't want to play AOS. Like I painted up some stuff, and I was just sort of discovering the joy of painting. And that's when the Heresy Bros reached out and seized me and dragged me to 1st edition Heresy. You don't have to learn a new rule set. You can come here. Our rules don't change. Well, until now.
Yeah.
But those guys showed me the light. Like the Nova Heresy crew, like taught me that there was like a different style of gaming that you could play that was really similar to RPGs. That was like a collaborative storytelling experience that you could sit across from the guy that you're playing and both walk away having enjoyed that. And I, in competitive 40K, I was like, I'm not knocking anybody for getting their kicks where they get it, but for me, like when I was losing, I felt bad because my goal at the time was winning.
Right.
And when I was winning, I felt bad because I could tell my opponent wasn't having fun. And so it was a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
But after all of that stress of everyday life stuff going on, having a bunch of people sort of set standards for entry to play at, some people may call that elitist, some people may call it, pure enthusiasm, and, trying to better your community. And I really needed that at that moment more than I thought. And my first army was World Eaters. I don't even know what's showing on screen, but they're in the case over there. The second
Nice.
army was Mechanicum, which is the next level up. The last one was the Demons, which led me to Dirty Down in an odd twist of fate. I worked in a event production company, sort of from the ground up. We built this company from nothing to like 55 employees, and then COVID hit, and I found myself with a lot of time on my hands. And I was painting these demons, and I really loved the gory nastiness. I really loved, like you talked about how people would use like Godzilla stuff in the 40K, in the Heresy Demon thing. And it's because the Heresy Demons, the Demons of the Runestorm, had no prescribed models at the time. It was the first time GW sort of pivoted back to bring what you want, bring whatever's cool. Like, we don't sell a mini for this. And that was after they came off the thing of like, oh, if we don't sell a mini for it, guess what? Like, it doesn't have rules anymore. So I scoured the internet, and it was just before 3D printing really took off. Now you can find a cohesive army that looks gross and nasty from so many different amazing companies and amazing sculptors. But at the time, I sort of pulled from anyone I could and everywhere I could. But I was stuck because I wanted to paint Rust.
Mm-hmm.
But I went out and bought a bunch of enamels and oils, which weren't, Grimdark wasn't cool at the time. I guess it was just still seen as a lot of work. And it was all scary to me. Like, I'm the kind of guy who I need to like fully understand the process before I feel comfortable using it, or using those tools. And enamels and oils were a step away from that box that GW puts you in creatively and otherwise to, you can't achieve certain effects without going there, though. That weathered, natural, nasty tank stuff. I stumbled across this tutorial on Instagram by a guy named Luke Mockridge. We went on to become a lot closer. And it was sort of this paint called Model Mates Rust Effect, slap it on. Like, he showed pictures, and I was like, there's no way it's that easy. Like, every time I find an enamel or oil, it's use these 7 layers and Windex or tile cleaner, or like, everybody has their preferred brand, use this airbrush. Like,
yep.
And so I see you smiling, Philip, because I know
Just listen. It's like there's always 80 people have 80 different techniques, and you also had to you have to hold the airbrush specifically with your thumb and middle finger at 27 degrees relative
from the hardware
to the
store.
Yeah, like you gotta.
Oh, sorry, my video is cutting out a little bit. So where was I? Yeah, there's always a process. There's always, a difficult method, but I found this easy thing that promised to be a miracle, and I'm always skeptical of that stuff. And then I couldn't find it anywhere. Nowhere. Model Mates Rust Effect. And I scoured the internet once again, like reverse image searching stuff, like going to Bing, and God knows, ask Jeeves, find every search engine for this stuff, and I found it on the Wayback Machine of all places. And it was a site that didn't exist anymore, which led me to a Roman Lapot's massive voodoo article. And in the comments, somebody said, hey, this company actually rebranded. They're called Dirty Down now. Well, guess what? I still couldn't find it, except for a few eBay listings. And I'm gonna 1-2 skip a few here because I feel like you're getting more than you bargained for.
That's all good.
But the
Bing,
cheapest
synonym of desperation.
yeah. The cheapest that I could get it for on eBay was like it was $20 for the bottle and $50 for shipping. Later, I found out that that's because these are flammable materials. The only way you can get it here safely is to do something called exempted quantity, and that requires a bunch of IATA certifications, et cetera, et cetera. That's why it wasn't here in the first place. Well, I spent the next, bought it for $70, got it here, used it once, immediately spent another $200 on getting more Dirty Down. Because I said, if they went out of business one time, they can go out of business again. It was exactly what it promised. It was like, 5 or 6 paints in one. You slap it on, you wash it on, you get the effect, and you don't have to do anything more than that. And I've since learned that you can do way more than that. You can take it to award-winning levels. And since that point, a lot of the Golden Demon entries at Adepticon, at the Crystal Brush, at Nova, people are using this to that degree. But you can still, as a beginner painter, as long as you mix the bottle, slap it on and achieve an effect that would otherwise take 7 layers of paint and 2 days if you're counting varnish cure time.
Yeah.
It ends up being ridiculous, the amount of effort that you would have had to put in to achieve something like that. So 1-2 skip a few. After courting Dirty Down, we were able to become, finding it as a hobbyist. I've tried to maintain that enthusiasm, that knowledge, be able to communicate to people who, oftentimes I find myself frustrated with products that I go out and purchase and no one to talk to about how do I use this? Or, there's 7 different methods or 10 different ways and you have to go to a hardware store. And one of the things that was really important to me was being able to be accessible to anyone and everybody who had an issue. And in finding Dirty Down and in bringing on other product lines, we are not a traditional distributor. We don't have thousands of SKUs, but what we are is incredibly knowledgeable about the products that we offer. And if somebody emails me tomorrow by filling out a contact form on our website saying, hey, I have this problem, if I need to hop on a video call with you to get you straight, I will. And if it doesn't work out, I'll personally send you a new pot for free. And you don't get that guarantee from 90% of the companies out there.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's just the beginning. Because it's been a journey, and
because now you've made products with Dirty Down, like collaboration. If I remember right, for the gore and snot combo, or the gore and snot one.
Yeah, since discovering everything that Dirty Down was, and finding excitement in bringing back other products. So the Yellow Rust was one of the original 10 colors that we brought back. I went on to collaborate with them because they were working on a water-soluble blood effect, which probably shouldn't have said that. That's not out yet. But in that, I said, hey, you know what? I struggle with these other ways, using super glue, PVA glue, Uhu glue. There's always this real finicky, like there was with oils and enamels. There's ways to do this that you don't need to, buy this specific product. And if you enjoy those, go for it. But I found a bunch of frustration in the other methods that were out there, and I wanted something reliable that would work just as easily and quickly and ultimately save time, which as a hobbyist, you may have infinite time, or you may just need to get an army on the table tomorrow. Go with whatever option's best for you. But the gore and snot were my was my touch on the Dirty Down line, and working with them to do product development. We do all of the filling here in the States because we actually broke Dirty Down's filling machines. They said, hey, if you want to make this a reality, you're going to have to figure it out. We'll send you barrels and good luck. And so, so yeah, they took a tea break, and during their tea break, their filling machines seized up.
Oh.
So I felt really bad, but also it was an exciting opportunity. Even though it delayed things for about a year, we're now able to do this here in the States, and we're able to sell it for less because we do it here now. I can't promise that for the other products, but we're working on it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was zooming in trying to, because I got the pitch at Nova last year, and right after I was in the middle of working on some Tyranids that I wanted to use in Necromunda, which I never actually ended up using in Necromunda, but and I ended up buying the snot because I was like, oh, it's the same as the blood. I can cut that way. I could use it for both and just color it if
That's true.
But I ended up using it for the sump as well, combining it with the fluorescent green from Monument Hobbies.
Oh, that's so perfect.
So yeah.
Yeah. So the snot. Anybody who uses this will immediately go like, "Wait, this isn't paint." And yeah, it's not. It dries in about 2 to 3 minutes, but the less you have on your implement, the faster it will. So if you have a little dollop on it, it'll dry in like 30 seconds. But you can create these long strings where it's a sticky and it'll touch to one side. You can string it out to another, and then over a course of a few minutes, it will harden. So the gore is indeed just dyed to my preferred shade of coagulated blood. Like I like that black crimson, not the bright ruby red. That's why we call this a gore effect and not a blood effect. Because if you're going to do spatter, go with your tried and true methods. If you do want this to be more liquidy, you can thin both of these down with acetone, and it'll give you something a lot more runny and with a lot longer work time. But I wanted somebody to be able to dip a toothpick in and apply it to their model immediately. And that was one of the challenges of dialing this in to where it's at. But you can mix in dry pigment. You can mix in acrylics without affecting the structure. Some other glues that you can use to achieve similar effects will yellow over time or become more brittle when you mix in acrylics. Ideally, you mix in an alcohol ink. That's not because it's a better color than anything else, but it's because it will maintain a lot of the glossiness and transparency that you expect from an effect like this. So it will dye it without making it completely opaque. And you don't need much, just like 1 or 2 drops max to a whole pot.
Right. Yeah, I really that was a lot of fun. I need to try. I've seen it. I've seen the sample stuff for the other effects, like the moss and the rust. But like, yeah, it's pretty. I just haven't had a chance to grab that one yet. But I keep seeing there was the Kill Team Blood and Zeal that comes with like I think it's like a Sister of Battle statue. And I'm just like, that's just asking to be verdigris, like to be.
Yeah. Well, all of these effects, as I mentioned much earlier, they start in the film industry. So like a predecessor to these effects is on to the sprays actually is on the original R2. And they've continued in the newer Star Wars movies. They are in The Martian, Alien, Pirates of the Caribbean, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones. The list goes on. And it's known overseas as the go-to for these type of effects.
Right.
There's nothing else you use because nothing else is like it, and it just saves time on set. And that's the advantage that it gives to us is the water-soluble aspect. The only other glimpse that at least the miniature painting community has gotten from a main line was Army Painter's speed paints when they first came out. And that was almost like an accident. I'm not 100% up to speed on how or why that happened. But you don't have to use isopropyl. You don't have to use, it's from the Nova table.
Yeah,
man,
like
it's always a wreck.
If I lose it, if I zoom out, But this was
Yeah. Oh, the lighting situation was fun there too.
But this is what I mean. Like, this is the like one of the just take that statue and get that kind of verdigris in there. And Philip, this is just literally he just takes the bottle and just paints it on, and this is the kind of effects you get.
That's amazing. Yeah, like I'm flipping through the website, reading all this stuff, and it's like, you don't need 12 different paints. You just need this one bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the full range of. I'll give you the full spiel. You get a full range of color out of just the one wash, and you can use water to manipulate and change it. You don't have to use acetone. You don't have to use mineral spirits. You don't have to use isopropyl. You just use this, and it's not going to mess up the paints that are underneath. It is a solvent-based paint, but it's not going to damage any underlying paint layer that you have there. It evaporates so quickly, so you get to see those results in just a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, for that initial dry time. Enough that in the 45 seconds that I have with each person that approaches the booth, I'm able to paint it on with a demo, continue on to the next paint, tell them a little bit about the line. By the time we come back to it, the paint's already to the point where you can see that a range of color appearing. So it is the full rust. You can see on the knight's leg on the upper left-hand corner, that dark, crusty rust, the deep brown, reddish brown. And then over on the table, there's both the yellow rust and the regular rust, and it is kind of difficult to see in the picture, but that full range of bright pale yellow to deep reddish brown is all in just the rust effect, and you'll get that full range.
Yeah, you can start to see some of the deep reds over here and on this like cross panel here.
Yeah, so what I will pitch, since I have the platform and I see some comments in chat, is the hype for Dirty Down went so fast that a bunch of the people who provided advice, made videos, I wasn't able to get to in time. Which is wonderful, right? Because I didn't have to do marketing or pay for those videos to come out.
Right.
But what it meant is there is some bad advice out there. The advice that was initially on the original bottle, and it's since had a few revisions, involved warming and said don't use cold, and people took that to its limit. The only thing that matters is that you're working around room temperature for both the model and the pot, and that the pot is well mixed. Well mixed for Dirty Down means something entirely different. If you pick up a bottle and start shaking it around, there's a ball bearing in here, and it's not going to come loose in the course of our conversation. So it's 30 seconds on a vortex mixer, or scrape the ball bearing free, and then you're going to handshake for about 2 minutes. If it ever comes out dark and glossy, remove what you've applied with water and then reapply. If I could dispel one myth around the Dirty Down that has gotten out of control, it is heat the model, heat the pot. Heat will only help you incorporate that goop, that magic ingredient at the bottom. As long as you're not working in like 40-degree weather, or, well, I think even when it's hot, it's fine. But as long as you're not working at like 40-degree weather, Fahrenheit, you'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Rusted Beetle's saying, depends on room temp. His house is 64 degrees, so.
You'll be all right. But a great way to flex that and get added color out of it is to incorporate water while it's wet or while it's dry, because that will cause a shift towards bright in your color scheme. So you apply it, wash it on like you would a contrast paint pretty heavily, more than you think you should, and then stipple in water, and that water will mix with the paint a little bit and run into all of your detail and recesses. And it acts almost as a reverse contrast. As rust sort of naturally forms, the deepest recesses will be the brightest, rustiest parts. And you're able to create these cool effects that way.
Now, something else that's on here, and the thing that caught my attention the most is also the Zone Mortalis tile back here, where you see the aging on there. And that's where I found out about because I had actually seen that. It was funny. I saw it in a store like a week before Nova, and then I heard about it like on a podcast that week, and then saw it at Nova, or saw your display Nova. So it was like just confluence of stuff there. But that I had been thinking, because I'm still in the process of making a bunch of Necromunda terrain, and I was trying to figure out like, how am I gonna, do those wash effects that you would on like a mini, but on like a large scale? I'm gonna have to buy a bunch of stuff and like make like giant vats of, wash to apply it. And then you introduced me to the aging sprays.
Yes,
So
yeah.
I've been exploring.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So this is the Zone Mortalis. Well, one of the Zone Mortalis boards I've been working on.
Oh, that's so grimed up. I love it.
Yeah, it gets real grimed up, and then you kind of have to like, how grimed do I want this to like work it out? And
Hmm.
it's weird. It's funny because in some places it got a little patchy because this whole board is 3D printed, so these aren't official Zone Mortalis tiles. So like you can
Uh-huh.
see in some of the areas it got a little patchy because you can see the lines in the
It just adds to it. You're all
yeah.
right.
But um,
Yeah,
it's
all the aging sprays bring something pretty just as unique as the liquid effects. Those are the ones that are more used in costumes and props, but they do the same thing. I normally suggest it not for miniatures because if you get in close with the sprays, they can stain. But
yeah.
um, when you're working on terrain, you have an interesting challenge because you want it all to look similar, not the same, but also you don't want any single piece to sort of be much different if you're going for like a theme, like you are with these ZM tiles. Um, and when I'm working on sort of grim darking up large terrain projects, you have to work, if you're using the traditional methods, you have to work within the cure time of your enamels and oils. The longer you leave them on a project, the darker that's ultimately going to be, unless you're going to be, scrubbing at it. So you're somewhat limited, at least committed rather, in what you're going to accomplish in a given time. So if you want to do a whole like 4x8 table worth of terrain, and you want that all to be as gritty and grimy as the first tile as the last, um, that's out of my wheelhouse of what I'm capable of doing in a reasonable period of time. Like, all right, we're going to do this for the next 4 hours. With this stuff, the sprays, you can throw all your terrain out on your driveway, spray it all down for primer, and then take use a colored Rust-Oleum primer. I think, is that what you did here?
Yeah, I used the sea. It's like a sea glass green, kind of beach green kind of thing. I was trying to mimic
Nice.
the tile that you had shown because I had liked that effect.
A seafoam green, yeah. So uh, that's the Sons of Horus colors always work amazingly well with weathering, especially with rust. And so I
Yeah.
see kind of where you were headed here. Um, so you can throw all of that out. Use a colored primer because that sort of saves you a step, and then you can come at it with sort of 2 categories worth of the aging sprays, dirty down aging sprays. There are some that are great for grime, so like the black, the dark brown, even the ash blonde on certain colors look like dirt or filth. And then there's another category that fall into like age or um, like yellowing. So the nicotine yellow is the movie term. It's a very specific color. And the rust and even the mid brown has great shades of like orangey yellows when you wipe it away. So you can get both the pairing of dirty and old, not just something that's been in like an ash storm, but like a 2,000-year-old space Hulk that's been floating through the warp, and has just been up in your grandma's closet. I don't know. So, and unlike enamels and oils, like the liquid effects, they're water soluble. So you can throw it all in your driveway, prime it, grime it with the dirty down sprays, and then take it back at your leisure. Like if you're like, okay, I'm going to put all this in the closet and come back to it in 2 years, it will be just as water soluble then as it is the day that you did it.
Yeah, for reference, Phil,
You want
this is what it looks like when it's sprayed on.
Ooh-wee.
Oh wow.
So then you can
You
kind
went
of
heavy.
Yeah, I did.
No, I like it.
And then you can kind of control because you just get some water. I had a microfiber cloth, and then because like if you go, granted it will stain and soil whatever you're gonna use, but
Yes.
I was having mixed results with the paper towels, or just I was going through a lot of them But if you go to like Harbor Freight on any given weekend, you can get them for like free sometimes, or it's just like just by like putting in your phone number, they're like, have a free sample of our microfiber cloths or whatever. So I was like,
Smart.
all right. And then you can just kind of, you just wet it and just kind of control how much you want to, take off. Oops, I keep flipping to that. But yeah, so like I wanted it more in the crevices and such. So, and you can just kind of wipe it down to get kind of the effect that you want.
It came out great.
My first this is my first or not my first. So I was originally because I wanted to make something with like 3D printed spool or 3D printer spools because I'd seen something similar and like I had used a bunch of like sprue goo to kind of like fill them in and such. So so like this is what the board looked like. This is what it looked. This is your before picture, and then this is your after picture.
I like it.
So I will say though, make sure you're in a well ventilated space because that stuff stinks.
I mean, it is a rattle can ultimately. So yes, play it safe. It uses butane propellant. A lot of the rattle cans in the U.S. have rolled over due to regulations to different propellants due to like safety storage stuff. But yeah, use as directed on the can. The piece of advice that I'll give you is while mixing is the most important thing with the liquid effects. For the sprays, the most important thing is that you do not get within 12 inches. The idea is for it to almost dry before it touches your tile. And if you do get within 12 inches, it'll turn like shiny almost and be more likely to stain. Be very difficult to remove. But you can varnish this in, no problem. That's the common question. If it's going to remain water soluble for 2 years in the closet, like what happens when I spill a beer on it? For terrain, you can varnish over this without issue, as long as you're following, normal, same thing, 12 to 18 inches, rattle can, airbrush. Just you can't paint on your primer. I mean, varnish with the sprays. With the liquid effects, since we're on the topic, like the heat thing, the misconception is that you can't varnish the liquid effects. I have a specific and a general recommendation. My specific recommendation oddly comes from the Gundam realm. It is Mr. Hobby Super Clear, which is a magical varnish, and I don't understand how it works. But if you use paint-on varnish or a rattle can on the liquid effects, they will turn dark and seal that way. You have to make sure you do 3 light dustings, letting each dusting with an airbrush fully cure. But you don't need to varnish it. A lot of the beauty of weathering is the different surfaces. The satin of the paint, the matte of the rust, and the gloss of like oil and gas stains. And I think you're taking away a lot of that when you make everything exactly the same texture.
You're talking about when you go over it with like a matte or a gloss varnish on the top.
Yeah.
You've smoothed out basically all those different textures.
All that hard work you did, yeah, it's all gone.
So for something like, just for an example, like I've got this looks like armor plating, like a shoulder pad.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is just.
I got that guy in the case over there.
I'm assuming it's the base color was this kind of light green in the background.
So that was done with a base of Mornfang Brown.
Oh, okay.
I want to say this. Yeah. So that was done with a base of Mornfang Brown. And then I washed over the whole thing with the rust effect. And I did it in a way. Funnily enough, this was one of the first minis I ever painted with Dirty Down, and I didn't mix my pot enough.
Okay.
So it stained that Mornfang Brown dark and just got the rust effect in the very recesses. And then I came back and I dry brushed it with like Vallejo has an amazing metallic black. And then I came in with, on this particular mini, it's thinned down nihilec oxide because that stuff just gets freaking everywhere. So if you thin it down with water, you can come in and use it in a really precise way. So that's where all that bright green came from.
Okay, because I was wondering if that was the verdigris also.
I think they're great to use in conjunction, but I've since sort of learned that if you pre-thin verdigris, the Dirty Down verdigris with water, and paint in downward strokes, you get the amazing matte powderiness that you expect from Dirty Down and the full range of color, but with these beautiful sort of rain lines that, again, it's wash it on, but just do it downward, and you'll get those true to life.
That pattern, like you were talking about.
Yeah, like on that statue that you were talking about with the sisters box.
Yeah, I didn't buy it, but I didn't buy the sisters box, but it was tempting. It was very, and I kept every time somebody brought it, I was like, oh, you got to use this stuff. I'd show them the website.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So what is next for you and or for Dirty Down? Is there anything that you've announced or got in the pipeline that you can talk about?
Not announced. We've been sort of doing our victory lap with the gore and snot, but I'm happy to talk about sort of aspirations beyond that. One of them is, like I have my preferred shade of coagulated blood. I really want to dial in an ooze that is sort of that radioactive green while still maintaining the transparency. Plus, it has to be 4 letters to fit on the label correctly. So ooze seems like where it's at. And then there are... the owner of Dirty Down's like this mad scientist. That's why him and I get along a lot, is he tends to just always be working on different things. And so while our focus right now is showing gore and snot off to that convention circuit, this year, there are even 6 more liquid effects that existed in the Model-O-Mates line. An oil brown, a soot black, like there are with the sprays. In fact, a lot of the spray colors can come in liquid form. They're not identical in their effects, but they can be created that way. But the challenge when it comes to delivering Dirty Down products to America is in UK and EU, they're known for their water-soluble aspect. But here in the US, they were introduced, or we introduced them as a way to achieve these great range of color and all of these great effects with like a one wash. And the water-soluble aspect just tends to be an added benefit. So the challenge at this point is delivering a product that does something unique. And we get asked a lot, like, why not just put out a whole line? Why just 4 paints? Now 6 plus the spray cans. We could do that, but why? I started this from a perspective of enthusiasm for something interesting and something new. We brought in the gore and snot because there was other ways that were all worse. And if I'm going to deliver a Dirty Down product, it has to be special. And on that front, there's stuff in the works that I can't talk about, but ooze is most likely next.
Gotcha. Do they? We got a question in the chat. Do they work with Mr. Leveling Thinner?
I'm not familiar with that particular product. If you're going to thin the gore and snot, you would do it with acetone. You can thin the liquid effects with any number of products, and they all do something different and interesting.
Nice.
Water is going to take the Dirty Down range of color that you expect and shift it brighter. And if you incorporate a lot of water, it will go very bright, but still maintain that sort of gradient of color. You're just sort of narrowing the band. If you thin it with isopropyl or acetone, it turns it into this very... you'll sacrifice the full range of color, and instead you'll get this very dusty powder that settles around every rivet and recess in a very uniform way. It's rather unique but unintentional. And mineral spirits is back to mad science. Don't put it in your pot; it'll turn it all to goo. I don't know why it does what it does, but you'll come back 2 days later and there will be color where you left it. Good luck.
Now I just want to see you almost need like a texture palette that you could just put it in with different. Well, I'm saying like I would just want to experiment and just like dab it with like different liquids and then like right underneath so that I could see,
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I need that effect. So it's like,
yeah, there's so many interesting things you can do with it, and that sort of takes it to that next level. One of the most genius ones that I saw is So I just talked about how adding water brightens the possible range of color. If you incorporate a wash into that mix as well, what you do is put a ceiling on that range of color. So if you put water on dry Dirty Down, it'll immediately shift to the brightest possible tone. It's sort of like a desaturated yellowy orange, very, very pale. But if you incorporate a wash into it, you then make that the ceiling instead of that pale white color. So you still get this range, but it's capped off at a certain level, and that level is the color of the wash that you incorporate into it. So you can do some really interesting things.
Yeah. So do you find like and I think you hinted at this, of one of the biggest challenges, I'll say, of marketing this is just giving people examples of what they can do with it?
Yeah. Everybody's first instinct, my first instinct, was rust the world. Pour it all over everything. Make it like you're, a Mad Max level orc scrap planet, like full nasty. And you can absolutely do that. Texture it up, wash it all on. But you can also do things like Chewy Paints on Instagram did this really wonderful technique. People are still doing things that surprise me. And this was 2 months ago, where he used what some people view as a flaw, which is the water soluble aspect of Dirty Down, and undercoated his entire model in that. And then did a sort of artist opus approach of dry brush on all of his paint layers above that, to like a true metallic metal dry brush standard. And then he went back in with water and sort of feathered it with a very soft brush. And it...
For blending it almost?
Yeah, well, it leaches the Dirty Down to the top layer.
Ooh.
And you sort of get this orange surface, because Dirty Down has a way of making whatever you put on top of it water soluble as well. And so by putting the Dirty Down first, he was able to get back to that nasty, rusty color, but only in a very controlled way, and only where he wanted that rust to appear. And the rest of his model stayed that bright, shiny metal. Again, that was Chewy Paints on Instagram. So there's a lot of wonderful ways to use it. I'm still being surprised. I hope to continue being surprised. The latest crew was at Adepticon. I was talking with Galactic Armory and the Trench Crusade guys, because they did their set that they had there. And it was wonderful to learn from the film and prop perspective, because I come from the miniature side, just how everything's used in that realm. And now I'm discovering uses for sprays where you'll spray the whole can into a cup and then pour that in your airbrush and use it really quick to get very, very controlled sprays and effects. There's different approaches in every medium. No, not medium. Hobby. What's the word? Discipline. There's things to be taken from every discipline, and I think it's too often we narrow ourselves to one space, and you can learn so much. Even the auto paint guys, like, spend a day at an auto paint convention and you'll have so many tools to use.
Yeah, I find that I'm that way. Where it's like, I've done some experimenting, but it usually ends up, I never experiment on a different model, and so it's always like the model I end up destroying, like something else I'm working on. So like, it's always nice to have like a video that then I could like translate some. It's like, okay, well, they did this to get this effect, so maybe I'll just alter this one thing to try and apply it to something else I'm working on.
Great idea. Yeah. Have something to reference that's going to teach you. But some tools, they never cross, like Dirty Down. Like, was never available in North America. People hadn't even heard of it, but it had been around for 30 years. So there's tools out there that we're still discovering.
And for anyone that wants to like poo-poo this as like, oh, you're not doing it the real way, of like, that's just a cheat or whatever, all I have to say to you is, do you mix all your own colors, or do you go get pre-made colors from whatever your favorite paint brand is? So unless
We
you're
choose
using,
where to take our shortcuts in life.
yeah, unless you're using like CMYK color paints only and mixing every other color you need, I don't want to hear it.
And you can still use all of those things to accentuate stuff. I still use, rust streaks. What are they called? There's like crusted rust deposits. Wonderful paint to use in addition to these. But if you want to knock out that one step very quickly, you can do that and then continue with your paint.
Awesome. Well, for people that wanna try this out, obviously it's goblinshut.com.
Sure.
I've seen this in stores before, so I'm assuming you go direct to retailers.
Yeah, we're primarily a distributor. That said, with a brand new product, one of my wants was because it's not available everywhere, I wanted somewhere where it was always available. I much prefer you go and support your local game store. I much prefer that you go and buy from your local hobby shop. And if they don't have it, tell them about us. Um, and but that said, we will always have this in stock unless there is some very interesting rush on our products. There's been a few times where we've seen boosts in popularity, either among the cosplay community or the wargaming community. And at those times, we try to stay well ahead. As a distributor, one of my promises to my retailers is, unlike every other distributor out there, we will have what you want. We take the risk to hold on to this product. As long as you don't leave the bottles open, it's never going to have an expiration date. So you're more than you're more than welcome to get it from your local hobby shop. I encourage you to, but if you can't find it there, come to us.
Awesome. Where else? So where else should people go for any just examples of work, or for any other news about any upcoming products?
For sure. So Instagram is the best place for us. That's at Gobble with two B's _INZ. There's a story behind it, but we're past that point. And that's the best place to get a hold of us. That's the best place to ask any questions you might have. There is a contact form on our website. And if you are looking for a retailer near you, there is a store locator map, a Google map, on our website where you can find any shop that's closest to you that stocks our products.
All right. Well, it's time for me to roll that beautiful bean footage.
And that's been our show. We want to thank Mark for hanging out with us, chatting about all these amazing paints on their website. If you like what you see, you got to check us out, boardsandswords.com. It's got links to our streaming schedule and the streaming page. Also, boardsandswords.com/Patreon. You can help support the show. You get great prizes from Chris. Like, he dad jokes your favorite games. It's amazing and horrible, and we haven't done it in a while, so help us out with that, folks. Check us out, boardandswords.com, and that'll have everything you need.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Also, feedback at boardsandswords.com. Let us know who else we need to be having on the show. If you've got someone that you want to hear us talk to, send us an email. You can also find us on Blue Sky at boardsandswords.com, or like Philip said, boardandswords.com. Links to everything else, just like you said with the Patreon. Check it out. Help support the show. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. We're going to have someone from Restoration Games talking about their new Battle Monsters board game. It seemed very much up our alley, of a kind of like a, here's a bunch of monsters smashed together kind of thing. So that should be a lot of fun. So in the meantime, remember that every gamer has a story, and this one you should shake but not heat up.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, fun side story about that is our I didn't know what a vortex mixer was until our local store got them, and like they put one on the paint kind of stand, and they put one like on the like vertical on the wall next to like the Monument Hobbies and GW paints, so you could just go over and use it. And so like she'll or somebody will be like something about shaking up some paints, and she'll say like, "Oh, go use the mixer over there," and they're like, "Wait, there's a mixer over there?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's the vibrator on the wall."
On our official cards, there was a version where we really leaned into Dirty Down, but in our instructions we have on your vortex mixer or wand-like apparatus. And I figured that covers it.
I like it. All right, everybody. I'm going to shut the stream down here. For patrons, we'll be in the patron chat here in a minute. But thanks, everybody, for joining.